Your ball keeps drifting into the gutter, and you blame your arm. It isn't your arm. 3 small changes, and your average can jump 20, even 30 pins in a single afternoon. I spent more than 40 years around bowling lanes, and I watched people your age and mine get told the wrong thing over and over. There's a reason nobody ever handed you these 3 tips laid out plain. By the end, I'll give you a targeting trick from a bowling manual printed in 1959 that still beats what most folks teach today. And you won't need a new ball, strong hands, or a single dollar to use it. I want to take you back to a Tuesday night, sometime around 1978, at a little house called Rialto Lanes, where I racked scores by hand before the machines came in. I watched a man near 70, arthritis in both wrists, quietly beat a room full of younger, stronger men. He wasn't powerful. He barely swung the ball, and for years I thought he just got lucky. It took me decades to understand that he knew something the rest of them didn't, and that what he knew was the exact opposite of what everybody kept shouting from the next lane over. Here's the truth. I wish somebody had sat me down and told me 40 years ago. Bowling is not a game of strength. It never was. It's a game of timing, aim, and letting simple physics carry the weight for you. And the reason so many older bowlers give up or hurt themselves or plateau at a score they hate is that almost everything they were taught points them in the wrong direction. Once you flip those 3 things around, the game gets easier as you get older, not harder. That sounds impossible, I know. Stay with me, because I'm going to show you exactly how it works. Let me start with the very first thing that quietly holds you back, and it's the one thing almost nobody questions. The ball in your hands is probably too heavy. Now, I can already hear you. You've been told your whole life that a heavier ball knocks down more pins, that a real bowler swings 16 pounds, that if you drop down to something lighter, you're giving up power. I believe that too. I carried a heavy ball for years because I thought a lighter one made me look weak. But here's what actually happens on the lane. When the ball is too heavy for your body, 3 things go wrong at once, and every one of them costs you pins. First, you can't control the swing. The weight drags your arm off its natural path, and the ball pulls you toward the foul line, so your aim wanders. Second, you slow down. A ball that's too heavy makes your whole approach labored, and a slow, heavy ball actually deflects more when it hits the pins, leaving those nasty splits. And third, and this is the one that ends careers, you get hurt. The wrist, the elbow, the shoulder, the lower back. I've seen more older bowlers quit over a sore shoulder than over a bad score. There's a simple guide that pro shops used to share freely before it became fashionable to sell everybody the biggest ball they could lift. The old rule of thumb is that your ball should weigh roughly 10% of your body weight up to a comfortable maximum. So if you weigh 150 pounds, a 10 or 11 pound ball is plenty. If you weigh 120, you might be happiest at 9 or 10. The United States Bowling Congress, the governing body of the sport in this country, sets 16 pounds as the legal maximum for a reason, but maximum was never meant to mean recommended. Most touring professionals today, men in their prime with trained bodies, throw 15 pounds, not 16. So why on earth is a 70-year-old with a tender shoulder being handed the heaviest ball in the rack? Here's your test, and you can do it this week. Pick up your usual ball. Hold it straight out in front of you with your bowling arm, level with your shoulder, for a slow count of 10. If your arm shakes, if your shoulder aches, if you're relieved to put it down, that ball is too heavy for you. Now drop down 2 pounds and try the same test. When you find the weight you can hold steady and swing smooth, that's your ball. Do not let anyone talk you out of it. I promise you will knock down more pins with a ball you can control than with a ball that controls you. And when I finally made that switch myself, dropping from a heavy ball down to a lighter one, my average didn't fall. It climbed. Within a month, I was throwing straighter, cleaner, and my shoulder stopped barking at me every morning. That's when the first little suspicion crept in. Why did it take me 40 years to hear something this simple? Because somebody profits when you don't hear it. Let me say that plainly now, because you've earned the truth. Walk into a pro shop, and there's real money in selling you a heavier ball, a custom drilling, a fancy reactive resin coating that promises to hook into the pocket like the players on television. There's money in the accessories, the grips, the inserts, the polish, the bag. None of that is evil, exactly. But an industry built on selling you more gear has very little reason to tell you that the lighter, cheaper ball already sitting on the free rack might be the smarter choice for your body. The advice that costs them a sale is the advice that quietly disappears. And the person it disappears from is almost always someone older, someone who trusts the fellow behind the counter, someone who assumes the expert has their best interest at heart. I'm not asking you to be angry. I'm asking you to be awake. Because once you see that pattern, that the most useful advice is often the advice nobody makes a dollar from, you start to see it everywhere in this game. Which brings me to the second thing, and this one is bigger than the ball. This one is about your body, and it's where most older bowlers lose the game before they ever let go of the ball. Watch people bowl sometime. Really watch them. You'll see grown adults muscling the ball, heaving it, throwing their whole upper body into it like they're trying to launch it across a river. They think power comes from effort. They think if they just try harder, swing harder, force it more, the pins will fall. And every single one of them is fighting the one thing that's actually on their side, gravity. Here's the secret that little arthritic man at Rialto Lanes understood back in 1978, and it took me half my life to catch up to him. Your arm is a pendulum. That's all it is. A weight on the end of a string, swinging from your shoulder, and a pendulum doesn't need muscle to work, it needs to be released and allowed to swing. When you let the ball drop and swing back on its own, then fall forward on its own, gravity does almost all the work for you. Your job is not to throw the ball, your job is to hold the door open and let it leave. Let me tell you exactly how to feel this, because it changes everything, and it costs nothing. Stand at the line with the ball held in both hands, up around your waist. Now, instead of swinging it, just let it fall. Let your arm go loose and let the ball drop straight down beside your leg. Feel how it wants to swing back behind you all on its own. That backswing, the one gravity gives you for free, is the exact power you need. You don't add to it. You don't force it higher. You just let it come forward again and let go near the bottom, down by your ankle, so the ball rolls out smooth onto the lane instead of dropping with a thud. When you stop muscling and start swinging, three good things happen. Your aim gets steadier because a relaxed arm follows a straight line and a tense arm yanks sideways. Your ball speed actually evens out, and consistent speed is what makes the pins fall the same way every time. And your body stops hurting because you're no longer straining every joint on every single shot. I've watched people in their 70s and 80s bowl 3 full games this way and walk out loose and smiling when the muscle throwers were icing their elbows by the second game. Now let's put the footwork with it, because timing is where the pendulum turns into points. Most folks were taught a 4-step approach, and 4 steps is perfect for older bowlers because it's simple and steady. Here's how the timing works, and I want you to read this slowly. If you're right-handed, you start with the ball held up, and on your very first step with your right foot, you let the ball push out and start to fall. Second step, left foot, the ball swings down past your leg. Third step, right foot, the ball swings back up behind you. Fourth step, you slide onto your left foot, and as you slide, the ball comes down and forward and rolls off your hand. Push, down, back, roll. That's the whole rhythm. Left-handers, just mirror it. Say it to yourself. Push, down, back, roll. Match your feet to your arms so the ball arrives at the bottom exactly as your sliding foot arrives at the line. When your timing clicks, you'll feel the ball leave your hand almost by itself, light as anything, and you'll hear a difference when it hits. Not a crash, a roll. That deep, heavy roll is the sound of a ball carrying its energy all the way through the pins instead of bouncing off them. And here's the part that ought to make you a little bit mad. This costs nothing. It requires no strength. It's kinder to your joints than what you're doing now. So why is it that the loudest voices around a bowling alley are always yelling about power, about revolutions, about hooking it harder, about equipment that promises to do what your relaxed arm already does for free? Because effort and gear are easy to sell, and patience and timing are not. You can't put a price tag on a pendulum. But you can sell a man a $300 ball by convincing him his arm isn't good enough. I fell for that once. I won't let you fall for it too. Now, I know exactly what some of you are thinking right about now, and I want to speak to you directly. because the next part I put together for you especially, maybe you're on a fixed income. Maybe every dollar is spoken for before the month even starts. Maybe you've been sitting there this whole time thinking, this is fine for people who can afford their own ball, their own shoes, their own custom fitting, but that's not me, and it never will be. I want you to hear this clearly. Everything that actually matters in this game, everything that actually lowers your score, is free or nearly free. The people who most need to hear that are the ones the industry most wants to forget. If that question is sitting with you right now, I want you to know I kept asking it, and eventually I wrote down everything I'd learned the hard way into a series called Start Simple, Deeper Habits, and the Senior System, each one built for bowlers our age who deserve straight answers without a sales pitch attached. You can find all three in the description below, and everything in them follows the same rule this channel does. If it doesn't actually help you knock down more pins, it doesn't belong on the page. Now, the reason that honest advice stays buried runs deeper than I first realized, and it's worth understanding exactly how it works, because once you see it, you can't unsee it. Let me prove it. You do not need to own a ball. The house balls sitting on the rack, the ones that come with your lane, are yours to use for the price of a game, and often you can bowl for just a few dollars in the daytime, sometimes less on a senior's morning. You don't need bowling shoes you buy. You rent them for a couple of dollars, or many alleys run senior mornings where the shoes come with the lane. And here's a tip most people never figure out. When you pick a house ball, don't grab the first one that matches your old weight. Spend 10 minutes trying the finger holes. Your fingers should slide in and out easily, and when you spread your hand flat with the thumb in the hole, your two middle fingers should reach the edge of their holes with just a little stretch. A ball that fits your hand, even a free house ball, will outperform an expensive ball that doesn't. I have seen people bowl their best games of the year with a scratched up house ball that simply fit their hand right. And the biggest, cheapest secret of all on a tight budget is when you go, nearly every bowling center in this country runs discounted daytime and weekday morning rates, and a great many run special seniors leagues and open bowling that cost a fraction of an evening game. Some run mornings where a couple of dollars gets you shoes and unlimited games for an hour or two. I've known folks who bowl 3 mornings a week, get their exercise, keep their friends, sharpen their aim, and spend less in a month than one dinner out. So if money is what's been keeping you off the lanes, I'm telling you as a friend, the money is not the wall you think it is. The wall was built to look taller than it really is. That gentle, low-impact walk down the approach, 4 steps and a slide, is also one of the best things you can do for your body at our age. It works your legs, your balance, your coordination, and your hand-eye timing. All at once, indoors, out of the weather, sitting down, rest between every frame. Doctors spend a fortune telling older folks to find low-impact activity that keeps them moving and social. You found it. It's called Tuesday Morning at the Lanes, and it costs less than your prescriptions. But knowing how to swing the ball and afford the game only gets you halfway. Because here's the question that separates the folks stuck at a 90 average from the folks quietly rolling 140s and 150s into their 80s. Where are you looking when you let the ball go? And I'd bet almost anything I know the answer. You're looking at the pins. Nearly everybody does. And it's wrong. Think about it for a second. The pins are 60 feet away from where you stand. That's the length of a lane, 60 feet from the foul line down to the head pin. 60 feet is a long way to aim a rolling ball with any precision. When you stare at something 60 feet off and try to hit it, tiny errors in your hand get enormous by the time the ball travels all that distance. It's like trying to thread a needle held across the room. Your eye simply can't guide your hand to a target that far away with any consistency. So you drift left, right, into the gutter, and you never quite know why, because you were looking right at the pins the whole time. Now here's what the good bowlers know, and it goes back further than you'd believe. Look down at the lane, just past the foul line, and you'll see a set of markers. There are 7 arrows arranged in a triangle, and they sit about 15 feet past the line, not 60. 15 feet is close. 15 feet your eye can guide your hand to with real accuracy. This is called spot bowling, aiming at a spot on the lane instead of at the pins, and it is the single fastest way to gain accuracy that I have ever seen at any age. Here's how you use it. Forget the pins entirely. I mean it. Pretend they aren't even there. Pick the second arrow from the right if you're right-handed, or the second arrow from the left if you're left-handed. That arrow becomes your entire world. Line your feet up, do your smooth 4-step pendulum swing, and roll the ball straight over that arrow. Don't watch the pins. Watch your ball roll over the arrow, and keep your eyes on that arrow until the ball has passed it. Then, let your ears tell you what happened at the other end. The reason this works is beautiful in its simplicity. A ball rolling over the right board 15 feet out is already committed to the right path to the pocket 60 feet out. The arrows and the pins line up. If you hit your spot, the pins take care of themselves. You've turned one impossible 60-foot aim into one easy 15-foot aim, and your body relaxes because the target is close enough to trust. The first time I made an older friend try this, a woman who'd bowled the same lazy 85 for years, she picked up 3 strikes in one game, and she looked at me like I'd handed her a magic trick. It wasn't magic. It was just something nobody had ever bothered to tell her in 30 years of bowling, and that's the part that started to really bother me the more I thought about it, because spot bowling is not new. It's not some modern computer design technique. It's old. It's been known and taught for the better part of a century. Those arrows have been built into the lanes on purpose for generations, sitting right there in front of every bowler who ever laced up, and yet somehow most ordinary people, most older bowlers especially, were never plainly told what they were for. How does something that useful, that simple, that free, stay hidden in plain sight for a lifetime? I'll tell you how. Because I finally chased it down, and this is the secret I promised you at the very beginning. This is the one I want you to carry out of here and try this weekend. For years, I assumed the real targeting knowledge was something the pros kept to themselves. Then I got my hands on an old bowling instruction manual from 1959, the kind of practical, plain-spoken guide they printed back when people expected to learn a skill properly and keep it for life. And there it was, laid out in black and white, decades before the fancy equipment era, the whole method spelled out for the ordinary bowler. Not just aim at the arrows, the exact adjustment system that makes it work every single time on any lane, no matter how it's behaving that day. They called it the board system, and once you know it, you'll never guess at your aim again. Here it is. The lane is made of narrow wooden boards, 39 of them across, and every arrow and every dot lines up with specific boards. You already learned to roll over the second arrow. Now here's the piece almost nobody knows. If your ball keeps missing to one side, you do not change your swing. You do not try harder or twist your wrist or muscle it over. You simply move your feet. That's the whole secret. Your starting position on the approach and your target arrow together decide where the ball goes, and moving your feet is far more reliable than changing your throw. The old manual put it as a simple rule. If your ball is landing too far to the left of where you want, move your starting feet a few boards to the left and keep aiming at the same arrow. If it's landing too far right, move your feet a few boards right, same arrow. You move your feet the opposite way you'd expect. Keep your eyes locked on that one arrow and let the geometry do the correcting. Move your feet, not your aim. Say it out loud. Move your feet, not your aim. That one sentence is worth more than any ball you could buy. Why does this beat everything the modern shops push at you? Because it never wears out, it never needs replacing, it works with a free house ball as well as a $500 one, and it puts the control back in your hands and your feet instead of in your wallet. A touring professional and a 75-year-old on a Tuesday morning use the exact same system. The pro just practices it more. But the knowledge, the real knowledge, is identical, and it's been sitting in plain print since before some of the people reading it were born. Somebody knew, somebody wrote it down carefully in 1959 so it wouldn't be lost. And then a whole industry grew up on top of it that found it far more profitable to sell you power and gear than to hand you a rule you could use forever for free. So this weekend, here is your whole game, start to finish, and every piece of it costs you almost nothing. Pick a house ball light enough that you can hold it straight out for a slow count of 10 without shaking, and light enough that your fingers slide free. Stand tall, hold it at your waist, and let it fall into a loose, relaxed pendulum. No muscling, no heaving. Take your 4 steps. Push, down, back, roll, and let the ball leave your hand low and smooth by your ankle. Forget the pins completely. Put your eyes on the second arrow and roll the ball right over it. And when it drifts, don't fight it, don't force it, don't blame your arm. Move your feet a few boards and keep your eyes on that same arrow. That's it. That's the entire thing. That's what took me 40 years and one old man at Rialto Lanes and a yellowed manual from 1959 to finally understand. I think about that little arthritic fellow all the time now. He couldn't grip hard. He couldn't swing hard. He couldn't do a single thing the loud young men on the next lane thought mattered. And he beat them quietly, week after week, because he knew the game was never about strength. It was about letting simple, free, patient truth do the work while everyone around him paid good money to make it harder. He tried to tell me once, and I was too young and too proud to listen. So I'm telling you now, and I hope you're wiser than I was. You just took back something that was quietly kept from you, not by some grand conspiracy, but by an ordinary, everyday habit of an industry that would rather sell you effort than give you the simple truth for free. You are the kind of person who refuses to be handed a heavier ball and a bigger bill just because it's easier for someone else. So take this to the lanes and let the folks who spent a fortune wonder how the person with the free house ball is suddenly outscoring them. Now, I want to hear from you, and I mean this. When you were bowling before today, were you staring at the pins 60 feet away, or did you already know about the arrows 15 feet out? Tell me the honest truth in the comments right now, because I read them, and I want to know how many of us were never told. Just leave a comment and say pins or arrows. That's all. It'll take you 10 seconds, and it tells me who I'm still fighting for. And if you're the kind of person who's tired of being kept in the dark to protect somebody else's profit, then come join the rest of us who are taking this knowledge back one forgotten trick at a time. Subscribe and stay close, because next time I'm going to show you the one thing about bowling shoes, and the way you slide that quietly wrecks more older bowlers' balance than anything else on the lane, and almost nobody checks it until after they've fallen. You'll want to know it before your next game, not after. I'll see you there. Before you go, one last thing. This video gave you the overview, but inside the Wise Living Circle, I pick up right where we left off. You can ask me your own questions, and I answer you myself. No machine, just me. You'd belong among thousands of seniors already there with you. Just point your phone's camera at the code on the screen, and you can cancel any time with one click.